Good morning, doctor. So,
Morning.
ask some questions.
Mm.
The first one is, could you share your academic background?
Okay, academic background. I'm a French citizen. I have my undergraduate went up to the A level in various Catholic schools in France. Okay, then after that, for some reasons, I was sent by the French authorities to Malaysia to the military service, and there I stayed and I decided to do a PhD. Sorry. Before that, I had to do my PharmD. So after my A levels, I basically went to the University of Rennes School of Pharmacy to obtain a doctorate in pharmacy. Okay, so this was I got my doctorate in the year around when was it? It was 1995. Okay, and after that I went to Malaysia, and in Malaysia I did a PhD there and I got it UPM, and I got it in 2001. So this is my academic background, which is undergraduate specialization in biology, pharmacy degree, and natural product chemistry in here. Yeah, this is the background.
For the next question is, what motivates you to focus on your research on medical flora?
As I told you before, it is because when I was a young man, I witnessed the death of someone that was extremely dear to me. And as a young man, I got an electroshock. Before that, I was not a good student actually. I was very lazy and not serious and playing fool a bit, a shy man. And once this person passed away, then it gave me a big shock. I was confronted to death, and I realized that I had to do something. So at first, I wanted to become a medical doctor, but I realized that when you are a medical doctor in a hospital and in a clinic, you don't have the possibility to make any discoveries in terms of drugs. You don't discover drugs, you just use the drugs discovered by others. So I said to myself that if I want to save more lives, I need to go into pharmacy to be able to find new drugs. Okay? And then I went to Malaysia after that. And then I went, at the time you had in Peninsular Malaysia a lot of rainforest, and now it's gone for palm oil. And then I've seen that in this Peninsular Malaysia, fantastic plants. And I mean, too many trees and rare species. I mean, it's difficult to express this with words. But I was in a state of awe, when I saw all of these plants with, I knew, enormous, potentials. And I decided to stay there and then to study the plants. So since around 1994, 1995, I've been, working on that continuously, knowing fully well that some plants in this part of the world, Peninsular Malaysia and Sarawak and Sabah and all of Southeast Asia, I mean, you are being blessed with a flora, which is, I think, one of the, I mean, is it still? I don't know, because everything is being burned and cut for palm oil and other things. But some plants are around here which really have enormous potentials for drug discovery. And I try to do that by writing articles and by publishing books, you know. So that's what I've done.
Okay, for the next question is, based on your study, what's make tropical flora in Southern Asia especially valuable for medical research?
I don't know. I mean, that it happens that in this part of the world, you've got an extremely rich flora, okay? And you've got a lot of endemic plants. Endemic means that these plants are not found anywhere else, okay? So um, you have got a situation where you are surrounded in your countries by plants everywhere, which have a lot of potentials, okay? So can you repeat your question again?
Um, Based on your study, what makes tropical flora in Southeast Asia especially valuable for medical research?
Especially available. What does it mean? What do you mean by
I
that?
mean valuable. Valuable.
They are available because they belong to some species and families which are known to contain molecules of therapeutic interest. And also, you've got in Southeast Asia and also in Sabah, especially in Sabah, now no more in Peninsula Malaysia, you have a very rich, still a bit, I mean, for how long I don't know, cultural, knowledge. We've got still some villages, and I've been to some village in Sabah already, and then I met some dusuns, and I've been with them, and I've seen the plants. They are still using plants for traditional medicines and eating plants as well. So you've got not only rich flora in terms of taxonomy and the plants growing here and endemic plants, but also you've got the people, the natives, they still have some knowledge. Okay, if you go to New York now and you ask people about medicinal plants, no one knows. Okay, they just go to pharmacy shop. But if you go to in this Sabah here or any other, perhaps remote developing countries, you still have some tribes and they still know how to use it. So for us, ethnopharmacologists, we've got a pool of plants and we've got the way to use them, and we combine both of this, and we can make, we can find drugs. All right.
For the fourth question is, how do you select the specific plant species for the scientific investigation?
How do you select? First of all, it depends on your training. So I'm a pharmacist, right? Okay. As a pharmacist, I've been trained in pharmacology, in chemistry, in physiology, and with a natural product chemistry, I know about the chemical constituents. All right. Okay. So it is actually, because of my education, I've got a set of expertise which allow me to read through the plants. Okay. You know what I mean? So for instance, you've got here behind us this Mangifera indica. It's a mango tree, right? There's nothing much to do with that, okay? But I know about the chemical constituents of this and what can be done. In this case, nothing much, except the fruits, which, as we know, are edibles. But if you go to the forest, I can see the plants and I can tell them that this plant can be used for that. I mean, what are the tests that we can do and what are the chemical constituents? And it is possible to predict. It is possible to select. Okay, but as I told you, okay, I am not given the means to do that. Okay, I don't have research grant. I don't have the support of the university. And in Sabah, you've got lots of medicinal plants. Okay, but because of the way things are handled, it is not possible. I don't think that within this coming 50 years, you are going to come out with anything possible because skills are not valued. And I mean, I'm not given grants. I'm not actually getting any support, and I don't know how long I will stay. I may probably leave this place, okay? Because of the way things are, being managed, and this is your loss actually. But again, the message is that you really have in this part of the world plants with very serious potentials for cancer, HIV, and all of this type of diseases, The state of Sabah is a very poor state, okay? And you could grow some plants, manufacture, have some sort of industries or factories where, you could develop your medicines and sell them globally. You could generate an income. But people are blind here. They don't see that. But those who suffer is the population, which is being deprived of drugs, okay?
For the next question is, how is traditional knowledge of medical flora integrated into modern scientific research?
I mean, that there's not such things as modern and ancient. We have actually these medicinal plants, which for the last, I don't know, 10,000 years, it's very long. We have been living human beings with plants for thousands and thousands of years. And that is the most important, There is no time with this type of research. The problem with this modern era is that we're living in a capitalist neoliberal system where everything is industrialized. Music is industrialized, food is industrialized. So it is actually a system that does not value very much medicinal plants. I don't think so, because I can see that the industries and the big pharmas are not interested into developing that. Okay. I think that the current way human societies are being, handled now and monitored, and this capitalist neoliberal system is not in favor of really doing a serious job with medicinal plants, and they are going to pay the price because when the COVID-19 came here, we were all panicking and then how are we going to cure ourselves, right? Okay. And they give us some vaccines. Some of them are very dangerous and have killed people, okay? So by sticking into this industrial system, of making organic medicines, and what I don't know how they make their discoveries, which are not very great actually, by putting aside and looking down with contempt into traditional medicines, villagers and shamans, etc. I mean, people have paid the price, and COVID-19 is nothing. You know, the coming pandemics actually are going to become will be probably, I think, even more dangerous and deadly. Okay, so you've got a system now, even in university system, with a system of KPI. Everything must be numbers, and everything must be measurable. But intelligence is not measurable. Skill is not measurable by numbers. You see. So I think that the whole system is wrong and will pay the price heavily. So to answer the question, I don't think that this system integrates very well. We are actually wasting time and wasting skills. Right.
So next, based on your experience, what are the main challenges in scientific validating medical flora?
There is no challenge. The problem is that people lack wisdom. Okay. The problem is that people are greedy. Okay. Human societies, human groups. Some people want to have power. Some people want to be in control. Some people want to have their photos on the top of newspapers. But all of this is a lack of wisdom. People don't work together. And especially in this part of the world, there is no, I didn't see in this part of the world, a lot of people thinking for the good, for the higher good of the society. It is very easy to find drugs and it is very easy to do research with plants. You have to select talented people with track records of publications, not fake publications. Some people have publications, but they are actually using other people's work to put their names. These are criminal activities. You need to know who is good in that field, okay? Independently of your religion, race, and things, but you have to go for skilled people, okay? And you have to give them the means to do their work. But it doesn't work that way with human beings, So what happened is that because of the way human societies work, especially here in this part of the world, you won't be able to develop anything serious because people don't want to work together. They are using the system for their own good. Okay, so I mean that you are witnessing in this part of the world actually a slow, continuous disappearance of plants with deforestation due to owed to palm oil businesses. The bobolian and all of these healers are dying. So you've got a slow, it's vanishing. So you have actually now a time where all of the knowledge, all of these little diamonds, all of these plants containing, some substance that could have saved the life of millions are going away. You know what I mean? Actually, you have to see all of these plants and all of this as some sort of, a pharmacy shop, a huge pharmacy shop. But the pharmacist is getting old and is going to die. And then someone is coming in and destroying the stocks and the shelves of it. So you are having actually, the door is closing. But once it's closed, we are all going to suffer because new diseases are coming, Again, there is no wisdom. There is no real will of saving lives. The main problem is the lack of people don't work together. And also the problem is financing. In my case, I don't have any grant. I have to pay my own students' fees and pay the own student. This is my office here. This is my table. I don't have it. This is my chair. Okay. You know what I mean? There is no. I don't see a serious will to do that job here, and it is not good. Next question.
How important is biodiversity in sustaining future medical flora
It
research?
is very important because the more plant species you have, the more type of molecules you have, and the more chance you have to find drugs. But the biodiversity is shrinking. You know, you have palm oil, and all the trees are being cut. Okay, so I can see that. No, I think that it's doomed to fail. Actually, unless miracle. But I see that all of these plants are being. I mean that maybe within 100 years everything will be gone. Actually, yeah. But it is very important. But we have the system is failing. Mm.
Next is how can medical flora research benefit modern healthcare system and society?
In the case of Sabah, with all the plants you have, you can create jobs in the villages. I've seen the poverty in the villages. I have seen people living in difficult situations. You can, if a plant is interesting and of global interest, they can actually, grow them. It creates jobs, farming, in the villages. Provide the raw material. You can make factories. People can work there, employing people. There's no job in Sabah. You can do this here. The state can become really a center of production of very important drugs for the world. I mean, nutraceuticals, herbal remedies, even pure compounds. Okay? And you can also have these drugs here and you can use them in hospitals. You can use them. So it is for Sabah and for the world is very important. You have in Sabah some plants now which are of global interest. Millions of US dollars can be made with this. You know, I'm not upset. Huh? I'll just tell you what I've seen. Mm.
Okay, for the last question
Mm.
is what advice would you give to the student who is interested in pursuing research on medical flora?
The advice is that you don't work for yourself, but you work for the good of the society. And you have to see yourself as long as you are in this world, from the day you come to the day you go, what will you live after? If your aim to become an academic is to buy a big car, to have a big house, to get professor and power, you are useless. You're going to waste public tax money. To be an academic is like being a priest. Okay, it's like a service to the society. A real academic. You must be passionate. Okay, we can't afford in this time in history to have some fake pretending academics. Just being there for the salary, just being there for titles and their egos. We can't afford that anymore. The world is changing. Okay, be passionate, love your job, be kind. Work very hard, and you have to be very strong because when you're working very hard and when you're productive, you are going to attract a lot of enemies. So you have to be very strong. But it's worth going that path. Okay, next question.
And that's
Thank you very much. Okay.